Mute and share screen. Okay. Okay po. So for today po, we'll be covering 4 topics. Actually, 5 pa siya. Pero yung isa naman is mabilis na yun. Okay, just an overview lang naman yung isa. Okay, so for the 4 topics po that we'll be covering today, almost all of those are conceptual. Hindi ko magagaranti na magagamit siya sa industry agad-agad. Pero yun nga, may mga tools dito na susubukan nating gamitin or susubukan nyo gamitin through simulations. And at the same time, I could provide a few examples sa Little Fuse, yung mga projects namin na gumagamit ng mga tools na i-cover natin for today. And then, yun nga, meron naman tayong online references na pwede nating ma-check, okay, as we walk through dun sa mga tools, mga topics na i-cover for today. Okay, so maybe we can start now. Ano? Okay. So, first thing na i-cover natin is talking about process strategy. Okay? I'm hoping na tama yung ginawa ko. Okay, so all of my references for today, yung 4 topics can be downloaded online. So, pwede nyo na siyang i-check by just Googling it. Okay, so ang ating topic is process strategy. So in here, we're just defining ano yung mga iba't ibang klase ng process strategies na ginagawa ng iba't ibang klaseng industry. Okay, so again, conceptual, kasi pagpunta mo sa industry naman is given na to. Okay, and then may iba silang terminologies na ginagamit. Kagaya sa amin, may ginagamit kami mga terms like make to stock, build to order, build to stock, custom made parts. So yun yung aming kalimitan sa mga na tinatawag na process strategies. Okay? So, ayan. So, in process strategy, simple lang po to. It just identifies anong klase ng production process yung ginagawa ninyo sa industry in order to meet yung process and product specs at the least possible cost para ma-meet natin yung pangangailangan ni customers, and given yung mga constraints na nag-exist sa industry, so mako-consider ang lahat ng mga yun. Okay? So those are the process strategies. So nahahati ito sa or ang process strategy ay madi-define in by knowing if the product or if the plant is producing at high volume or at how many varieties they are producing. Okay? In terms of volume, so it could be a low volume, repetitive process, or high volume. Okay? Pag sinabing low volume, kokonti lang yung production, but definitely hindi mo pwedeng i-compare ang one production to another production na magkaiba sila ng line of work. For example, automotive sector. You're comparing automotive sector, car producing, manufacturing companies, compare it with, let's say, ano ba maganda? Let's say semiconductor manufacturing. So, kung ang semiconductor nakakapag-produce sila ng let's say 1 million pieces per day, ang car production ay hindi po kayang mag-produce ng ganong kadami. Okay? So, if you're trying to compare and assess what kind of industry yung isang kumpanya na yun, kailangan apples to apples yung comparison. It should be semicon against another semicon company. It could be an automotive against another automotive companies. Okay po? Kasi yung volume nun ay magkaiba ng ibig sabihin. Okay? So, automotive sector. If we are to compare Honda production versus mga production ni na, ano bang, yung mga luxury cars. 'Di ba? Hindi siya pwedeng or pwede siyang i-compare. Pwede nating malaman anong klaseng process strategy yung ginagawa ni Honda, anong process strategy na ginagawa ng luxury car manufacturer na yun. Let's say Chrysler. Okay? So yung Chrysler na yun, no, Chrysler ba yun? Okay, hold on. Hindi ko matandaan eh. Okay, Ferrari for example. So si Ferrari ko konti lang yung kanilang pinoproduce, tama? And then si Honda marami silang pinoproduce. So si Honda maka-classify natin as high volume. Let's say Honda, they can produce about 50 cars per day. Okay? Dun sa isang plant nila, 50 cars per day. Then si Ferrari, siya ay, let's say, in 3 days, they can make just one car. Okay? So, mako-consider natin siya si Honda as part of the high volume, while si Ferrari naman ay part ng low volume. Okay? Even if si Honda, they only produce 50 cars per day. Ngayon, usapang semicon. So let's say Little Fuse, they are producing, let's say, 1 million pieces per day ng isang klase ng fuse. And then we have another competitor here, let's say, um, yeah, another semicon company. They can only produce 10 pieces or 10,000 pieces per day. So si Little Fuse, mailagay natin siya as high volume while the other company naman ay low volume. Okay, that should be an apples-to-apples comparison before you identify anong klaseng process strategy yung particular industry na yun. Okay? So once again, si Honda, they can produce 50 cars per day. They could go dito sa high volume. Little Fuse, which is a semicon company, they can produce 1 million pieces per day, high volume din. Okay. Then, in terms of variety, ito yung ilang klase ng products yung pinoproduce nila. Okay? And then, ayan, pag ang low volume siya, mababa ang ating volume, iilan lang yung ating products na pinoproduce or process na kino-cover. Ayan. And then mataas yung variety niya. Ang tawag sa kanya ay process focus. For example, yung mga hospital. So sa hospital po, ayan, 'di ba maraming klase ng operations ang pwedeng gawin. Okay? Pero hindi siya pwedeng pagsabay-sabay na okay, yung isa may gagawin surgery, isasabay mo na dun sa another surgery. So mababa ang volume. Okay? Mababa yung result. Pero madami yung specialization, marami yung variety. And then we have here a repetitive process. Kalimitan sa mga manufacturing plant is repetitive yung focus or gumagamit sila ng mga standardized components. Ano pong ibig sabihin nun? So let's say you have different kind of raw materials na papasok sa sistema mo, sa manufacturing system. And then maggagawa ka ng mga modules, mga standardized parts, mga molded parts. And then those molded parts will eventually be processed to result to a different varieties of products, different varieties of part numbers. Although, yun nga, yung module or yung standard part ay the same, yung ating output ay iba-iba. Okay? You can create multiple outputs even if you have a few standard parts. Okay po? And then with regards naman po sa product focus, mataas yung volume nito. Dito, pina-prioritize natin yung batch production or long run na production. Kumbaga, wala masyadong gagawing adjustments. You just need to monitor the results because you're producing the same product dun sa line na yun. Araw-araw, palagi, mayat maya. An example is, yun nga, sa beer. Okay? San Miguel, halimbawa, yung kanilang sector, beer sector, okay, or beer unit nila. Okay? So, ilang klaseng beer lang yung available, di ba? Konti. And then, tuloy-tuloy yung kanilang production. So, mataas yung kanilang volume, pero yung kanilang variety ay hindi ganun karamihan. We can mass produce kumbaga. And still, pare-pareho lang naman yan ng steel. So, possibly dun sa cutting portion na lang and process na lang nagkaiba-iba. But definitely, you can run it at a high volume in a long run. Okay? Then we have a mass customization here. Mass customization. We can produce variety of parts and high volume. Okay? And then, ayan. So, ito nga po, just to cover it, ito yung mga 4 basic strategies natin. Pag nasa industry ka na naman, again, magkakaiba ng terminologies na ginagamit. But you have to understand ito yung basic ha. Make to stock, make to order, ayun, yun yung karamihan. So, we can consider the process focus since nga po mataas yung kanyang variety, low yung kanyang volume. It could be make to order. Okay? You'll only produce once may order tayo na na-receive. Kasi nga po, maraming iba't ibang klase yung variety natin. Maraming product offerings tayo. And we don't want to have so many inventory nung finished goods. Okay? Kumbaga yung finished goods natin, nagpo-produce lang tayo pag may order. Okay? So, ayan, example, sa hospital nga, maraming iba't ibang klase ng inputs and then maraming iba't ibang klase ng outputs and then unique sila. So, maraming output, ayan, pero unique. Repetitive, ito nga po, we're using standardized components, standardized parts, and normally yung facilities natin is organized on assembly lines. Ito yung again, maraming production ay repetitive yung focus. Ayan, gumagamit ito yung mga standardized components. Pinaprocess natin yung mga raw materials, gagawa tayo ng mga modules sa mga standardized parts, and from those standardized parts, we can make use of them to produce different kinds of outputs. Okay? Yan, kalimitan sa mga production natin is repetitive yung focus. Product focus naman po, high volume but low variety on the product. Ito kalimitan, we're ensured na yung, yung ating finished goods ay mako-consume. Okay? Hindi mo kailangang receive ng orders para lang mag-produce ka. You're continually producing parts. Okay? So masasabi natin, sa industry, ang concept nito ay make to stock. You're producing and then whatever you produce ay i-store mo lamang. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, mataas yung finished goods inventory nito, but then, alam mo naman na makukonsume siya. Okay? Kasi nga po, ang customer, yun lang naman yung pipiliin. Diga? Wala silang maraming options, kundi yun lang. Ilang products na pinoproduce nila. Ilang variety na pinoproduce nila. Okay? An example of product focus yun nga sa steel production, sa feed mills, 'di ba? Ang feed mills matagalan na ran. Okay lang natuloy-tuloy yung run natin ng pagpo-produce ng mga hog starter, mga kung ano mang feeds na gagamitin. Okay? Then mass customization, yun nga, rapid low cost production that will provide a unique customer experience. Okay? Yan. Example, high volume, high variety nga yun. Dahil you have several components here and then several modules and you could produce many outputs. Okay? Yan. Ito lang yung comparison. Hindi ko na iisa-isahin pero kalimitan. In terms of production na run, ang process focus with low volume, high variety, kukunti lang yung kanilang pinoproduce pero ayun, and large variety of products. Ito naman repetitive long run and usually using standardized components. Why product focus po, mataas yung quantity and kukunti lang yung variety. Mass customization, large quantity, large variety. And then with regards po sa operators na gagamit na operators na magwo-work po dun sa process na iyon. Sa process focus po, ang operators po ay broadly skilled. Halimbawa, may isang operator and then yung ating product na iyon, product A can run in machine 1, 2, 3. Product B can run in machine 2, 3, 4. Product C can run in machine 3, 4, 5. Okay? And then hindi naman laging may order si product A, B, and C. Okay? So, that person po na ito po, yung production operators natin, kailangan po familiar siya na gamitin yung mga machines na specific for those products na pinoproduce nila. Again, mataas nga po yung variety. So, very familiar siya dun sa mga machines na ginagamit na iyon or dun sa processes na iyon. Okay po? Kaya po broadly skilled siya. Well, repetitive naman po. Ito nga po, may mga work styles na tinatawag na. So, kumbaga, may tao na naka-assign na or lisensyado na to operate those sets of machines, those set of process. Okay? Hindi pwedeng itong tao na to ay hihiramin ng other department or hihiramin ng other process kasi nga po lisensyado lang siya to operate those work cells na ayun kung saan siya naka-assigned. Okay po. And then product focus naman po, less broadly skilled. Bakit? Kasi nga po mataas yung volume, iilan lang yung variety. Ibig sabihin yung mga machines na ginagamit or yung process na pinag-undergohan nila ay kokonti lang din. Or yun at yun lang din yung mga processes na ginagawa. Okay, ibig sabihin, hindi niya kailangan maging flexible to learn other machines. Ayan. Kasi nga po, kukunti lang naman yung variety. And then for mass customization, dapat flexible din sila kagaya ng nitong sa repetitive. Okay, and then kagaya rin po nitong sa process. And then, ayan, with regards sa raw materials nga po, normally, dahil nga po sa mataas yung variety nung ating process focus, so nangangailangan siya ng iba't ibang klase ng raw materials. Okay? And then, syempre, ayaw naman nating ma-disappoint yung mga customers natin. Okay? So, kailangan prepared na yung mga raw materials na kailangan. Okay? Hindi natin assured kung ano ba yung mismong kakailanganin ni customer dahil marami nga siyang options. So, on our side, we can start building more raw materials inventory. Okay? And then those raw materials, parang kukunin na lang yung mga raw materials na yun and then hindi na kailangang mag-intay pa ng customer order para bumili tayo ng raw materials. Okay? Kumbaga dito, prepared na yung raw materials and then pag may pumasok na order, ipoproduce na lang natin yung finished goods. Ready na yung raw materials. Okay po. Then sa repetitive focus naman po, JIT po, pwedeng i-apply. Bakit? Kasi nga po, we're expecting a long run din po dito, batch production. So alam natin kung ano yung mga laging kailangan. So yung ating mga supplier, prepared na rin po sila na pwedeng mag-deliver sa atin kung kailan lang natin kailangan. Product focus naman po, raw materials inventories are quite low. Bakit po? Kasi nga po, long run, kukunti lang yung variety mo. Ibig sabihin, dapat yung ating mga supplier ay nakausap na natin na, okay, just deliver us this amount monthly. Okay, hindi natin kailangan mag-store ng maraming raw materials given nga nakukunti lang yung ating finished goods. Okay, kukonting klase lang yung finished goods. Unlike dito sa process focus, na kailangan natin ng raw materials na marami. Kasi nga po, maraming klase tayo ng products na ipoproduce at ayaw nating i-disappoint ng customers natin by waiting for the delivery of those different kinds of raw materials. Okay? Well, for mass customization, low rin po yung inventory and then ina-address nila yun through some kinds of ABC analysis to identify ano yung mga raw materials na kailangan nating mataas yung level of inventory at ano yung mga hindi pwede nating i-negotiate with our suppliers para makapag-deliver sila sa atin in just in time manner. Okay? Then, yun nga po, process focus. Siyempre, kailangan dito ng finished goods orders mula sa mga customers. So, saka lang tayo nagbi-build kung kailan lang may order. Hindi tayo nagbi-build ng extra kasi nga po uncertain yung demand. Maraming options si customer na pagpipilian. So, hindi natin alam kung ano yung particular parts na kailangan nating taas ng inventaryo. So, as in general, hindi tayo mag-iipon ng finished goods inventory. Gagawa lang tayo ng finished goods kung kailan may order. Okay po. Next, repetitive focus naman po or assembly line. Ang finished goods natin are made to frequent forecast. Kasi nga po, batch production na to. So, we are anticipating na ano yung requirements ni customer sa future even if wala pang actual orders. Forecasted volume pa lamang siya. Okay? So, ayun nga, from those forecasts, we can set up a plan, production plan for our finished goods. Okay? And then for the product focus naman po, similar din po dito sa production sa repetitive focus. We are producing in accordance sa forecast. Hindi natin kailangan ulit na mag-antay ng actual orders mula sa customers kasi we could heavily rely dun sa forecast on our planning process. Okay? And eventually, once na-produce na natin yung parts, i-store lang natin. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na make to stock. So, kumbaga, it's okay to keep finished goods inventory level to high to have a relatively high inventory level for your finished goods kasi nga po we are expecting na bibilhin pa rin siya ng customer. Bakit? Kasi kukonti lang yung options nila. Okay? And then mass customization, finished goods are often built to order. So kung kailan parang konsepto rin ito, saka lang natin gagawin itong mga finished goods kung kailan may order. Yun nga lang, dito gumagamit sila ng mga standardized components. Kumbaga may standardized parts na sila na saka lang natin na ayun, ready na yung standard parts. So, i-assemble na lang natin depende sa pangangailangan ni customer. Halimbawa nga, si Dell, di ba, yung ating laptop, they have several models, 'di ba? High variety sila. And they can even produce more. They are producing at high volume. Ngayon, yung finished goods na i-build nila ay kino-customize nila depende sa pangangailangan. Halimbawa, yung isang industry umorder ng ganito karaming laptop. So, may mga standardized components na sila. Halimbawa, yung keyboard. Yung keyboard ni Dell ng isang model, halimbawa Latitude, can be used dun sa other models din. Okay? Yung at then yung ibang yung chargers, 'di ba? So they can uh, one model can use the charger of another model. Yung battery pack ganun din po. Okay, kumbaga, din na lang sa assembly nagkakatalo yung specs. Standardize na yung components nila, yun nga lang, built to order pag may finished good. Yung pag may yung finished goods natin ay i-build lang natin once na may order na. Okay po, nakuha? Okay. Then, ayan, many other considerations. So, ito, skip ko na po. Ngayon, syempre, kayo bilang engineer, you have to understand the process. You have to analyze the process kasi ayaw naman natin na magkaroon tayo ng problema dun sa processes na yun. And we always look for improvements dun sa process. We're trying to ensure na yung process natin, they are giving the value na ina-expect natin sa kanya. We're wanting na ang customer natin or ang customer experience natin ay ma-maximize. And then yung process will eventually win orders. Okay? So, you have to understand or kaya meron po tayo na mga lean project, continuous improvement projects, specific dun sa mga processes na yun. Kasi we want na nag-i-improve tayo from time to time. Okay, nare-reduce natin yung mga lapses natin. Okay, and then may mga tools tayong ginagamit dito. We have several flow charts and several kinds of mapping. Ngayon, how can you say that you are indeed improving the process? What's the way? What are the ways to determine ano yung before and then ano yung after? Paano natin ma-measure or paano natin mag-gauge yung difference na yun? Or how improved ba yung nangyari sa process? So, one of the things na kailangan nyo dito maintindihan is first to set a baseline. Dapat we know baseline. We know what is the current. Ano yung current state? And then, syempre, gagawa na tayo ng proposals. Dito, magkakaroon tayo ng mga Kaizen Blitz, mga improvement processes, specific dun sa mga activities na kailangan or specific dun sa process na yun or yung mga activities na kailangan gawin dun sa process na yun. And then we'll eventually come up with a proposal or sets of actions na gagawin, and then lay out a future state. Ano yung mangyayari sa future? Okay? So, ganyan po yung ating gagawin. Parang before and after. Current state versus the future state. Again, you cannot tell, you cannot gauge how good yung naging improvement if you cannot set a baseline. Okay, this is where we were before and this is where we are now. We are now. Okay? Okay po. So with that said, ito po yung example. So this is a time function mapping or sa industry tinatawag siyang swim lane diagram. By definition, time function mapping, it shows process flow. Okay po, process flow, step by step, procedures, and the time frame. For that time frame, na-identify dito, gaano katagal ginagawa yung procedure na yun or yung task na yun. Okay? So, and then at the same time, sino ang gumagawa or saan siya ginagawa? Halimbawa ito, this is your process. Intindihin muna natin yung process. You have the customer orders a product and then the sales receive that order and then eventually put those orders in the system. Okay, ipaprocess nila. And then once na process, makikita yan ni planning team. Ayan, and then mag-o-order sila kay production na gawin yung product na yun or gagawa sila ng plano sa system. And then they will wait hanggang sa ma-ready na yung parts. Ngayon, ang production naman, ito yung gagawin. Halimbawa, may dalawang planta tayo, plant A, plant B. So, ang plant A, ayan, na-receive yung order. Gagawin yung process nila. Halimbawa, printing yung process na ginawa sa plant A. After nun, ito, mga semi-finished pa, hindi pa tapos yung product, it has to be extruded. And then, itatransfer mo na siya sa warehouse. Kasi nga po, siguro, itong sa plant B, yung extrusion machine niya ay utilized pa or ginagamit pa. So, you have to wait before we process itong work in process na parts na yan. Ayan. And then, ang mangyayari, yung sa warehouse natin, nandun lang siya. Wala kasi mapaglagyan sa plant B, halimbawa. And then, i-move na natin siya sa plant B. Okay, and then ipaprocess na natin. Ito yung final process, extrusion. So, ang process lang, ipiprint and then i-extrude. Okay, once na na-extrude na yung parts natin, completed na yung parts. Finished goods na siya. Dadalhin na siya sa warehouse. And then, i-move na siya hanggang sa makarating sa at ma-receive ni customer. So, yan po yung process flow. Okay? Ngayon, napakahalaga po na ganito na makapag-drawing tayo or makapag-illustrate tayo ng ganitong klase ng mga mapa or mga flowchart. Kasi pag nasa industry ka and then nakalagay lang sa iyo, nakalista lang yung process, yung kagaya ng ginagawa typically natin. What are the procedures needed to produce this product? So normally ginagawa lang natin, nililist down natin yung steps. But listing down the steps will not give you a value na that can easily be understood. Okay? May kulang ding details dito na hindi natin pwedeng ilagay in sentence form or in paragraph form. And of course, it is too boring to read a lot of lines dito. So better to present it in a map or in any kinds of flowcharts similar to this one. Okay po. So, ayan, ito nga po yung mga involved, mga sino-sino yung mga gumawa or saan ginawa yung particular processes na to. And yun nga, yung time frame. For example, from the order receipt, once na nag-place ng order yung customer natin hanggang sa ma-process siya, it takes 12 days. Ridiculous, 12 days. Ang tagal niyan. Anong klaseng processing ang ginawa dito. It could be like hindi hindi ginawa kaagad ni sales yung kanyang trabaho, or that could be because of some communication problems, some clarifications that are needed. Possibly ganun yung nangyari dito. And then, ayan, why do you need to wait for 13 days before that order ay or before tayo magkaroon ng printing process? 'Di ba ang tagal ng pag-iintay, 13 days. And then, yung printing lang pala na yun is it only takes 1 day. And then, itatransfer siya sa warehouse. It takes again 4 days. Then, imumove siya 1 day. And then, dadalhin muli siya sa warehouse. Aantayan nating maging idle itong extrusion machine sa plant B. So, that's 10 days again. And then, extrusion process 1 day. And then, yun na, delivery is 1 day. And overall lead time is 52 days. Lead time. So, ganyan katagal yung pinag-intay ni customer para i-receive yung orders. 52 days. Okay? So, from here, you can easily identify, again, easily identify, pero syempre, meron pa dong ilang mga possible hidden things. So, you can easily identify yung ilan sa mga improvements na pwede nating gawin. Ano-ano kaya yung mga improvements na yun? Anyone? Anyone? Ano-ano yung mga nakikita nating possible improvements dito? Guys? Ano-ano yung mga possible improvements dito? Again, gagawin nyo to sa trabaho nyo. So, hindi siya pwedeng titigan lang. Ano
Yung
pa?
sa waiting process po, sir.
Yeah, waiting. Why do you need to wait? Okay, so ayan. Eri po ay parang yung kidlat. Ang tawag sa kanya, Kaizen or continuous improvement note ata or Kaizen blitz. So, too much waiting. Ano pa? Ano pa yung mga possible na improvements na pwede natin gawin dito? Okay, mga yellow belt na kayo. Alam niyo na to. Ano pa po? Ano pa yung mga improvements na pwedeng gawin?
Yung pag-move po.
Okay, too much movement. Movement is a waste, di ba? Transportation is a waste. Why to move? Okay, yan na lang yung note natin. Why do you need to move from one warehouse, from one plant to another plant? Bakit ganyan yung setup natin? Di ba? Why do you need to have two plants? Okay, ano pa? Ano pa yung pwede natin? So we could eliminate the waiting times or eliminate or reduce the waiting times, or we can eliminate those unnecessary movements. Ano pa? Ano pa? May isa pang madaling ma-address na problema. Madaling malaman na problema. Ano pa, guys? Okay, ano pa po? Yun lang? Yung waiting at saka movement? Ito, 12 days. Bakit 12 days? Bakit ganun katagal? Tingnan mo, pag, again, just irrelevant yung example, but halimbawa, o-order ka sa Jollibee and it takes them to process your orders like 5 days. Or order ka sa Lazada. Okay? And before you receive acknowledgement na na-receive ng sistema yung orders mo, 'di ba? Or ulit, nawala. Halimbawa, order ka nga sa Lazada. Okay? And then, nag-place ka ng order sa Lazada and then you're waiting for a confirmation na truly na-receive nga yung order mo. Okay? Na na-receive ng sistema ni Lazada yung orders mo. 'Di ba ayaw naman nating maghintay ng napakatagal. Ano, halimbawa 5 days bago mag-confirm, 'di ba? Ang tagal. And similarly on this, bakit kailangan 12 days? There there should be something to be done to address the processing time na 12 days. Malinaw po. So, yan yung ating mga nakitang improvements na pwedeng gawin. And eventually, you can set a target or a future or a proposed plan like this one. So, a processing will only take a day. Move order from the order up to their producing up on producing the parts 2 days. Then, ipaprocess ulit. There's no movement, the 1 day. And then, we have the transportation na-receive from 52 days to 6 days. So we can then measure ano yung improvement, percent improvement. That could be 52 less 6 divided by 52. Or baliktad ako, 6 less 12 less 52 divided by ganyan. So makikita natin yung improvement na yan. Okay, gaano kalaki yung naging improvement. Okay? So I think that is calculator. Okay po, hold on ha. Magkakalki lang ako. That is 52 less 6 divided by 52. So that is 88% improvement. Okay, so malaking bagay. So sana naintindihan natin to, yung process na ginawa natin. Okay? So again, that is only one of the tools, the time function mapping. So we have several other tools dito like yun nga, yung several kinds of flowcharts. An example of flowchart, most common example is yung ating spaghetti diagram. Okay? Siguro nakakita na kayo ng ganito, spaghetti diagram. So dito sa spaghetti diagram, you're able to see yung movement of materials, movement of manpower, kagaya nito. Okay, nakikita natin. Yung color coding na yan, ay yun po yung mga movement ng chairs na to. Or halimbawa ng tao na to. Ito rin po, yun yung mga movements nila. And then later on, you can set a way on how can we reduce yung kinds of yung flow na ganyan. Okay? Another example is ito. Yan. So, nakita nyo dito guys. So nagkakaroon dito ng mga collisions. Ito yung mga area. Yan yung parts na ipoproduce natin. And then, yun nga, nagkakaroon na-address. Paano kaya natin masisimplify yung process na to? Okay? Another example ay ito. Sorry. Yan. Okay. Yan, ito. Another example ng spaghetti diagram. Okay? And then ito, ganun din. Okay po. Ito, another example, spaghetti diagram. Napakarami pong examples ng spaghetti diagram. Okay? So, I'm hoping na pag may mga projects kayo concerning material flow, you have to understand first, nasan ba yung mga naibo? Ilan ba yung mga collisions na nangyayari? Halimbawa, ito yung green. That is one movement. Yung red, that's another movement of material or manpower. Then blue is another movement of material and manpower. Nagkakaroon dito ng collision. How can you simplify that? Okay? Dito hindi naman kailangan maging complex na kailangan mo gumamit ng scientific tools. Hindi po. Kailangan lang dito ng common sense. Okay? Kasi, or common sense and practicality. Okay po. Siyempre, may mga machines dito na hindi naman hindi na naman pwedeng ibuin kasi nga naka-fix na siya. So, what are the ways para ma-reduce yung ating mga collisions, mga problema, mga transportation time, and so. Okay? So, yan po yung example ng spaghetti diagram. Okay po. Gagawin niyo po yan. And then time function mapping, pinakita ko kanina. Value stream mapping naman po, it shows the flow and time, kagaya ng time function mapping, but also value added beyond immediate organization. So meaning it also involves external elements, like for example, supplier, external elements yan. Customer is another external element. Okay? And then yung another information pa. Example of value stream mapping ay ito. So in here, ito yung process, ito yung supplier, external elements. So sa supplier daw po, ayan, so syempre unahin natin dito. May order sa atin si customer 2,500 pieces. So kidlat meaning those are electronic transmission. Electronic yung communication na nangyari. Then si planning team, or si purchasing o order siya kay supplier 2,500. Okay? And then sa supplier, magdi-deliver siya sa atin weekly. And then once na na-deliver, ayan, may konting inventory na dito, ipaprocess na yung mga orders, yung mga raw materials na yun sa machine na to. And that machine has one operator. Then once na natapos to, ayan, that takes 45 seconds to complete a unit. Okay? And then, itatransfer na yung mga finished goods in 3 days. 3 days bago siya um, ma-start ma-process nitong component mounting. Okay? Then, that component mounting per part only takes 40 seconds. And then, itong si assembly natin, even if there are two operators, utilize pa sila. So you have to wait for 6 days before they can process itong yung mounted part natin. Okay? And that assembly takes 15 seconds. And then, syempre ito, occupied pa itong si testing process. So 4 days yung ating naging lead time, waiting time. And then that testing process will take 20 seconds. Okay? And then, ipapackage siya. Then sa packaging naman po, 4 days yung ating lead time, 20 days yung packaging. And then, delivery to our customer will take 4 days. And we're shipping 500 per day. Again, ang weekly requirement ay 2.5. So, meaning we can ship 500 per day. Okay? And ito po, si supervisor, syempre, he's the one in charge on ensuring na nagagawa ng mga to, ng mga processes na to, yung kanilang trabaho. So there should be a daily communication. What's the status of this order? Nasaan na siya? Nasaan na? Okay? And then so on and so forth. And then the production supervisor will eventually provide a weekly status with maybe the manager, just for them, or to the planner, and just for them to advise the customer or the customer service that this is the status of your order. Okay? So again, kung by definition, andyan nga po yung flow. Nakita natin yung flow. Okay? Yung flow. We have time value. Time. We have time. And then we could also identify ano yung value adding and non-value adding activities. So, value adding activities, those are the activities na nag-a-add ng value or mahalaga sa ating mga customers. Okay? Nag-a-add ng value dun sa finished goods na ginagawa natin. Okay po. While those non-value added activities, those could be the waste that we're having. Like for example, a shipment, inventory. But for this case, in terms of time, those are the waiting times, the lead times. So 26 days. Okay? So yan po yung concept ng value stream mapping. And since nga po, kayo naman po ay wala pang sa lean manufacturing, i-discuss nyo to in detail. Pati yung step by step how to create this at ano pa yung mga icons na ginagamit nyo. But for us, for now, we may refer dun sa internet as a like testing, kumbaga, on how to create a VSM. So, kung titingnan natin sa value stream mapping, ayan, ganyan yung itsura niya. Napakarami naman pong references online. And then most of these references naman po ay self-explanatory na din. Okay po. But again, detailed like ano yung mga other tools na ginagamit dito, detailed for the process. Ayan, and several other computations po ay hayaan ko na lang sa lean manufacturing. Okay po. So ito gagawin nyo rin naman. Yung basic lang syempre. Just to indicate yung mga mahalagang konsepto. Ito kasi may mga cycle time pa yan. So hindi muna natin kailangang gamitin yung mga utilization. Hindi muna natin siya kukumpitin. Yun lang muna ang basic. Ano yung mga processes niya, ano yung oras. Okay? Yun yung gagawin natin. Gagawin nyo. Okay. Next, yung mga process chart, which is, you guys are very familiar with this. Service blueprinting naman po, it defines yung level of interaction and identifies any potential failure points. Halimbawa po ng service blueprinting, so ito po yung process. Nag-arrive si customer, okay? And then greetings. Then ito yung next process. Standard request, determine ganyan, hanggang sa umalis si customer. Okay? So we have several levels of communication with them or interaction with the customer. So ito po. And then sa service na mismo. And then third ay dun sa maybe sa third ay less yung interaction with the customer. Okay? So yan, hindi naman natin to gagawin but this is just, ito, simpleng flow lang naman po to. Okay, then, okay, sa manufacturing po, we can be assisted by several technology. Like for example, yung RFID system, yung barcoding, mga vision system, mga robots, mga automated retrieval systems, automated guided vehicles, yung CAD/CAM or computer aided manufacturing and computer integrated manufacturing, and many others. So just to give you an example nito, automated identification system. So yun nga, examples are barcodes and RFID. Hindi ko na kailangang i-discuss anong naitutulong yan. Process control. Okay, dito po sa process control, ayan, real-time monitoring and control of the processes. Halimbawa, ayan siya. So may program po kayong makikita sa system sa industry na parang ganito na monitor mo asan na yung part. Hindi po siya CCTV. Ito ang CCTV, itong nakalagay dito. Ito po ay parang makikita niyo to sa AnyLogic eh. Ayan, yung parang nakikita niyo yung status, yung ano yung output, gaano karami yung output ng machine na yun, ilan yung good parts, ilan yung bad parts, and the likes. Ayan, ito po, nakikita niyo sana yung pinopoint ko dito. Ganyan po yung itsura ng process control. Okay? So, again, kakaiba siya sa CCTV ha. CCTV kasi actual, nakikita mong itsura. So, ito po, yung mga makakapag-provide po dito ng mga several kinds of other statistics data. Okay? Then, vision system. So, if you recall last time, di ba may mga customers tayo na hindi nag-accept ng acceptance sampling or gusto nila 100% inspection or 200% inspection. So we can be assisted by vision system. Almost all industries naman po ay may kanya-kanyang vision system na hindi, kumbaga yung tao, siya yung titingin sa mismong part. Ito po, may camera po siya sa loob na nakikita po yung projection dito and then ma-identify if good ba siya or bad parts. Sometimes automated siya or sometimes yung tao yung magde-detect, magde-determine if out of spec or within target lang yun. Okay? So yun, siya yung nakakatulong sa pag i-inspect. Okay po. Robots. So malaking bagay po itong robots. If we want consistency sa result, kailangan po na hanggat maaari po ay automated yung ating process. Kasi pag laborious po siya, pag nag-rely tayo sa tao, 'di ba, possible inconsistent yung results. Halimbawa, pagwe-weld. 'Di ba, yung pagwe-welding naman nakadepende yung resulta sa tao na magwe-weld, 'di ba? Eh unlike kung machine yung or kung robot yung magwe-welding, same nung result. Okay? Gaano ka diin, kumbaga gaano katagal yung ating pagwe-welding and the likes. Okay po. Then automated storage and retrieval system naman po, nakakatulong po siya. Halimbawa, may warehouse ka. Then yung warehouse mo ay hanggang 5 floors. Okay, yung rack level of racks natin ay 5. So, through automated storage and retrieval system, you can easily locate asan yung mga parts na to. Saan mo kukunin. Okay? So, kumbaga, hindi ka na magtatanong sa mga tao na, okay, asan nga yung ganito, asan yung ganyan. Okay? And then, less laborious nga siya, especially if that is combined by automated guided vehicle. Okay? So, an example of that is, maybe you know this already, sa Amazon warehouse na robots. Ito po ang itsura niya. Ayan. So, tingnan muna natin by definition. So, there are more than 200,000 mobile robots working inside the warehouse of Amazon. So, it helps on fulfilling its ever-increasing promises for better or speedy delivery. Ayan po. Yan yung itsura niya. Hindi ko na ipe-play yung video ha. Pero ganyan po yung itsura niya. Yan. Okay. So, ayan. So, yung through the help of the sensors na identify saan daw pupunta yung mga robots na yan, saan dadalhin yung mga racks na to, yung mga paleta na yan. Okay po. Okay, so sana naintindihan natin. This is an example of automated guided vehicle, and then we have automated storage and retrieval system. Ayun, storage and retrieval system. Yan, ganito naman po yung sa automated storage and retrieval system. Okay, halimbawa nga, ilang levels yung ating, ayan, siguro mas okay to. Ilang levels yung ating rack na to. So, with the help of automated storage and retrieval system, ayun, easily ma-locate mo na saan yung parts, saan dadalhin yung mga paleta na yan. Okay? Ayan. Questions po? Wala. Okay, I'm hoping na naintindihan natin to. Okay, then sa service naman, ilan lang to sa mga examples. So you may just read it. Okay, so any questions so far?
Wala naman po.
Wala naman po. Okay. So again, ang goal natin dito, magamit yung mga tools na pinakita natin. Yung VESM, those, itatry lang muna natin, na gawin. Kumbaga, okay? Kasi more details na kailangan halimbawa sa pag-construct ng VSM, ng ano pa ba, ng other flowcharts ay hayaan ko na sa Lean kasi mas organized po yung magiging discussion nyo doon kasi you have to really do a simulation. You have to really understand yung walkthrough yung process. Okay, step by step. Dito sa atin, yung simple lang muna. Okay. Next na gagawin natin is, okay, so that's process strategy. Next, capacity planning. Okay, so sa capacity planning po, ito, napakahalaga nito sa production eh. Halimbawa, planner ka. Alam mong napakataas ng demand mo. Okay? Ngayon, and then you have this kind of restriction na capacity. Sabi ni production, hanggang 10,000 lamang yung ating kaya produce. And then nare-receive mong orders ay halimbawa 20,000 per week. So ano plaplanuhin mo? 20,000? 10K? Ano yung nakalagay sa plano mo? 10K or 20K? So again, the case is, may nare-receive kang orders, 20,000. Okay, 20K pieces yung orders na nare-receive mo weekly. Sabi ni production, kaya lang nilang gumawa 10K. Question, anong ilalagay mo sa plano mo? The answer here is very basic. It's 10K. Kasi ayaw naman
10K po.
natin na maglagay ng plano na 20K kung alam naman natin na hindi siya kayang gawin. Kasi pag ang nilagay natin ay 20K, magbibigay siya sa atin ng incorrect na commitment or magbibigay siya sa customer ng incorrect na commitment. Kasi pag nasa system, pag nasa pag gumagamit ka ng system, halimbawa, any ERP system, Oracle, SAP, parang na-a-advise si customer na, okay, ito customer, ganito magiging available yung parts mo base sa nakikita niya na plano natin. Okay? Hopefully, I think I don't have a connection sa ano natin eh. Okay. But maybe let's see. Mabilis lang naman to. Kukonect lang ako sa system. Papakita ko lang sa inyo kung ano ang itsura niya. Okay. Hindi ako makakonect. Last try. Connect ako sa system namin para makita niyo yung sinasabi kong commitments na yan. Okay, ayaw niya mag-connect sa akin. Ayan, ayaw niya eh. Last. Opo. That is 664. Okay, so i-connect lang ako ng mabilis sa sistema namin. Then, papakita ko sa inyo yung customer orders. But before yun, okay. Okay, so what you're seeing is an SAP system po. And then, hindi pa siya nag-open yung Excel file. Or maybe I can just... Okay, hindi to. Ito. Okay, ito po, halimbawa. Okay. Anong date ngayon, guys? For 21, ano?
21 po.
Okay, so ito po yung date na yan. Ito yung ibig
Opo.
sabihin na, again, just to make it simple. Kita naman ano, yung order. Ito po yung mga customers namin. Yan po yung mga orders ng customer namin. 5,000, 2,000, 1,000. Kung mapapansin nyo, negative. May negative dun sa dulong yun, kabila. Okay, ibig sabihin po, yan po yung order or consumption. Kasi negative nga po. And then ito pong ibig sabihin ng P-Lord, yan po yung planned order. Okay? Kung mapapansin nyo, nasa taas yung planned orders natin. Okay? And then kung mapapansin nyo yung stocks, available quantity, it's a cumulative lang naman. 18,000, yung on hand ngayon, 18,000 less, may less negative 4,000. So we have 1,400 or 14,000. Okay, and then you have an order here, a plan, production plan of 23,000, 5,200, 28,000, 15,000. So, parang kasing ganito, sa konsepto ng customer, parang okay, we're in good shape kasi nga po, andito yung planned orders, nasa taas na yan yung planned orders. Ibig sabihin, magbibigay ka na ng commitment sa customer na okay, we can support this. Tingnan natin yung confirm. Ayun oh, parang nakikita dito, we can support you on time for 21. Okay? But in reality, dahil nga po sa ito ay past due, hindi na produce na plano, mali na yung nakalagay dito na confirmation. Malinaw po? Which is, ibig sabihin niya na di-disappoint natin yung customer kasi we provided them na masiserve yung kanilang orders but in reality, hindi po. Yun po yung ibig sabihin ko kanina na dito sa commitment. Okay, incorrect na commitment. Ngayon po, so if we go back here, I think may magandang ano dito eh. Okay. Hanap tayo ng isa pa. Hindi. Okay, ito. Okay. So, may nakikita kayong orders dito. Ano? Ayan, mga orders negative. And then you have a production plan here. So, sabi ni production, they can only produce 15,000 per week. Okay? So, ito yung 15,000. Okay po, malinaw na production plan. So, even if napakataas na nung demand mo na to, if your production says na ang capacity lang natin ay hanggang 15,000, 15,000 lamang yung iyong ibibuild dito. Ilalagay sa plano. So, ganito po yung sinasabi kong plano. Yan, 15,000 lang yung nakalagay sa plano. Ayun, planning table. Okay, hanggang 15,000 lang. Okay po. So, again, kung ikaw ay magiging planner, dapat kung ano lang yung advice ni production na hanggang dito lang yung kaya mo, kaya nilang i-produce, then yun lang yung susundin mong plano. But definitely, dapat at least alam nila na okay, we have this very high orders, what can we do to improve yung ating capacity? Okay, ganun po sa planning. Okay, so in here po, napakahalaga yung usapan ng capacity. Pag sinabi nating capacity, that's another term for the throughput. Ano yung kakayahan natin? Okay, anong kayang i-hold ng facility natin? Anong kaya nating i-produce? Okay po. So, sa capacity usapan po, kung kami po ay nag-a-analyze ng capacity, we normally visualize it. Kasi nga po, kung data lamang yung ibibigay sa amin ay hindi po siya revealing. Hindi siya ganun kaagad madaling maintindihan. So normally, pag kami nagka-capacity planning, that is done through tinatawag naming sales and operations planning. And then, pinapakita po namin yung status ng linya. Kasi dito po nakikita natin, ito yung orders, ito yung forecast, ito yung production plan natin, yan yung capacity. For this case po, hanap tayo ng maganda. Ito. Ayan. So, ito pong linya na to, ito nakikita niyo yung line na yan, straight line na yan, yan po yung capacity. Ibig sabihin po, ang linya, or for this production line, they can only produce 1.8 million per week. Okay, that's their capacity. And then, syempre, ito naman po yung inventory position. Okay? And then, ito yung target level of inventory mo. So, dapat, if everything is looking good, dapat yung ating blue line na to, nakakita yung blue line, ay dapat close dito sa target. Okay? So, paano natin gagawin yung blue line na yun close to the target? Diba, pwede tayong mag-increase ng production. Lagay ko dito, target production. Let's say 2,000 to 2,000. 500. Nakikita yung impact ng ginawa ko? Okay, or
Baba.
gawin natin siyang 5 million. I'm producing 5 millions per week. Okay, 5 million. So, ayun, napansin nyo? Yung blue line natin, okay, nag-exceed na siya dito sa target line natin eh. Okay, bawasan ko lang. 3 million. Okay. Ayun, napansin nyo? Okay, pag 3 million yung aking plano, ano nakikita natin? By June, ang ating blue line ay kadikit na nitong target line. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, in good shape na tayo. Pero, ano napansin nyo sa production plan natin? Nag-exceed na siya sa capacity. Tama? Which is, ayaw nating basta na lamang maglalagay ng gantong number just to make it dun sa target. Kailangan lahat yan napapag-usapan. And then, ang ibig sabihin lang nito, okay, hindi pwedeng magplano ng more than 1.8 kasi hanggang dun lang yung kaya natin. And then recovery could be on 2022. Okay, nakuha po? Yan po yung ibig sabihin nung capacity. Ngayon, for this line, syempre, i-review yan. Can we do something to improve our capacity, to increase our capacity para itong inventory line na ito would be close dito sa target line? Di ba? Napapag-usapan yan sa mga meetings. But for this case, since nga po, naka-4 shift na siya, 24/7 na yung operations. So, adding manpower is no longer an option. Malinaw. Adding an additional shift para mag 5 shift, that's kalokohan na. Hindi na pwedeng mag-exceed ng 24/7. Malinaw. So, anong possible action dito? Could be to review yung mga tinatawag nating bottlenecks. To review yung capacity. Okay? So, once again, this is your capacity line. And that capacity line is dependent on that bottleneck. Kasi let's say, maraming process kang pinagdadaanan dito. We have molding, we have plating process, we have different kinds of processes, assembly, sub-assembly, kung ano mang processes. Ngayon, if let's say, 1.8, di ba? So, if your process A, pangalan natin ha, process B, C, D, E, F. Yan po yung lahat ng pinagdadaanan na process para makapag-produce ka ng finished goods. Malinaw? Let's say process A, you have a capacity of or kayang gawin ng particular process na yun 3 million per week, 2 million per week, 3 million per week, 7 million per week. And then process E, 1.8 million per week. Process F is 10 million per week. So, ano yung ating naging bottleneck dito? 'Di ba? Ano yung nag-restrict? 'Di ba? Parang sa itsura ng bote. Alin yung nagpapaliit ng butas, 'di ba? So yun po yung bottleneck na tinatawag. Alin po yung bottleneck dito? 'Di ba? Itong process E. So that 1.8 million, that 1.8 million led to that capacity level. Malinaw? So kung hindi na natin kayang gawin yung mag-add ng shift to increase the capacity, mag-add ng manpower to increase the capacity and process E, possibly, an action could be to add new machine, tama? Or to check
Opo.
if meron bang mga delays, may mga problema bang na-encounter yung process in na yun. Okay po? So that can be done through VSM, through any kinds of lean initiatives para ma-review if that 1.8 is really the maximum that that process can do. Okay? Sana malinaw po. So, an example din po ay ito. So, yun nga po, same concept. Ito yung target level natin. Ito yung kulay blue yung production or inventory level, current inventory level. Recovery by February 2022. And then kung mapapansin nyo dito, may mga initial actions ng ginawa. like adding a new mold dito para mag-increase yung capacity. Sorry, yan, i-highlight ko lang yung mga tuldok na yun. Para mag-increase yung capacity na yun, sorry. Itong point na to, dito sa point na yun, okay, mula point na to, papunta sa point na yun, nag-add ng molding tool. Then para mag-increase yung capacity niya mula dito, papunta doon, nag-add ng manual line. And then to increase yung capacity niya mula dito, mula September, gagawin sa October, mag-increase siya, we have additional machine. Okay po? And then they are working in a 4 shift. Okay? So, these kinds of decision, yung pagbili ng bagong machine, pag-expand ng ating capacity, this can be done through a meeting like this one. Okay? Sana naintindihan po natin. Ngayon, sir, pwede po bang mag-add na lang tayo ng mag-add ng machine? Again, guys, ang pagbili po ng machine ay hindi po siya instant. Okay? It requires several levels of approvals. May tinatawag tayong request for quotation muna and then request for approval. Siyempre, okay, we are seeing na hindi tayo makakabawi pag hindi tayo nag-add ng machine. So, someone from a certain department, for our case is product department, they will initiate a request for quotation, adding for, let's say, additional molding machine or additional molding press. Okay? And then, syempre, nakalista doon magkano yung bayad, sino yung supplier, sino yung gagawa. Okay? And besides, ayun nga, maraming approvals yan. Could be, depende kung anong klase ng organization meron kayo. Kung Japanese, sobrang dami lalong approvals. Bakit? That's how tall yung organization sa Japanese. Halimbawa, ito yung main tao na, halimbawa, ito ka na nag-request ng approval. May boss ka, SV, or assistant supervisor. And then ang assistant supervisor na yon hihingi ng approval for the supervisor. Then that supervisor will ask for the approval for assistant manager. Then that assistant manager will ask for approval for the manager. Then that manager will ask for approval for his upper manager. And then hanggang sa makarating man, maraming levels na, maraming managers, maraming assistant supervisors pag Japanese. Ngayon, pag American company, ito, again, tall yung organization na to. Tall, ibig sabihin, yun nga, mataas. Di ba? Masyadong malalim yung organization. Unlike pag wide yung organization mo, na halimbawa, ito ka, okay, you're just ordinary rank and file employee. And then you have a manager. Then that manager, ayan, and then sabihin nating director na agad. And then here is the CEO. Eh ito, ilang levels pa bago makarating ng CEO. Okay, bago makarating ng president or so. Pero syempre, yung approval, posible hanggang dito lang. Depende sa kung magkano siya. Okay, so again, yung mga approvals na yan, magdedepende sa kung anong klaseng organization meron kayo. Okay, ito, malapad lang yung organization. Halimbawa na malapad na organization ay ganito. Yan, maraming dito. Ayan, halimbawa maraming tao dito pantay-pantay. Ayan. Ay, halimbawa sa amin na lang ganito. Connected ba ako? Okay. Baka kasi magkamali akong pindot. Okay. Halimbawa ng organization is sa amin ganito. Again, I'm working sa American company. So, ang aming organization is a wide, yung malapad na organization, di ganun katol. Okay, so, okay, wala namang kakaiba. Siyempre, profile. Okay, hold on po. Baka may makita kakaiba. Saglit lang po ha. Okay. Wala naman. Okay, wala naman. Okay. So, ayan. Ganito yung aming organization. Halimbawa, ako to. Okay, nasa baba ako. Tapos, I have a manager na ito. That manager, halimbawa, hingi ako ng approval. So, sa manager na yun, hingi ako ng approval. And then, we have vice president kaagad. And then, that vice president, boss niya, senior vice president, then that senior vice president will have CEO kaagad. So, ganun ka kababaw yung aming organization. Hindi kagaya dito sa mga Japanese na before kahalimbawa ma-promote or so, kailangan mo ng marami kang kailangan pagdaanan, kumbaga. Okay? So, ayan. So, sana naintindihan natin yung request for approval, request for quotation, yung approval process. Hindi po biro ang mag-add ng additional machine. Okay, so going back here, but before dito, ito simple na naman to. Kami sa industry is, yun nga, aside from doing this kinds of meeting, may mga internal meeting pang nangyayari. And an example of our analysis for certain process is ito. Excel lang kami syempre. Ayan. Halimbawa, itong line na to, there are millions per week. Ito yung capacity. Assembly has a capacity of 15 million per week. 14.6 million na molding. Ang plating process ay 15 million per week. So, for this line, ano po ang bottleneck natin? Molding. 14.6. Malinaw. So, this molding process ay parang magle-lead siya sa atin na, okay, we have a very high demand na let's say more than 15 million na. Let's say 20, sabihin natin 20 million per week na yung aming nakukuhan demand, and our capacity right now is 14.6. Ngayon, to address that capacity restriction, so an action could be to add a molding press for that line, or to make some refurbishing to improve our capacity. Okay? Kasi halimbawa, na-address na nga natin itong molding, nagkaroon tayo ng additional molding press. So, 17 million na yung ating capacity. Ano ngayon yung 17 million yung capacity natin sa molding. Ano na ngayon yung ating bottleneck? It could be on the assembly and plating. So, ibig sabihin, kulang pa din. Let's say, ang ating demand ay 20 million per week. So, something has to be done pa din. How can we further increase the capacity for assembly, for the plating, and so. Okay, mahaba-habang usapan po yan. Kasi once na-address mo yung isang bottleneck, another bottleneck will be revealed. Okay? So yan, ganyan po sa industry. So ito po yung mga options po on how to improve our capacity. Could be additional machine, changing of allocating a machine. Hiramin mo yung machine from other linya. Mag-a-add ka ng additional manpower, additional ship, subcon, and then for long term, yun nga, long lead time yung equipment natin, yung mga machineries, let's say 6 months, 6 months long, part of the long lead time na machine. And then adding a new facilities. Okay, ngayon, conceptually, may tinatawag tayong design and effective capacity. Pag sinabi nating design capacity, yun yung maximum theoretical output of the system. So ito yung based on our computation, this is and kakayahan ng mga machines natin. Yan yung capacity na kaya nating abutin, or that's the maximum theoretical. And then pag sinabi nating effective capacity, that's the normal. That's what we call as the staff capacity or demonstrated capacity. Staff capacity. Kasi guys, pag nasa kumpanya ka, may mga kino-consider kayong OEE or overall equipment efficiency. Overall. Or ito yung parang efficiency. Ito yung parang kakayahan mo or parang allowance mo. If your design capacity is 100%, your overall equipment efficiency could only be, let's say, 85%. So that instead na ima-max out natin to 100% yung ating capacity or yung ating itatakbo sa linya, magiging 85% na lamang siya. Bakit po nagsaset tayo ng 85% or ganyang overall equipment efficiency? Kasi nga po, hindi naman perfect yung ating sistema. 'Di ba? What if nagkaroon ng mga changeover? longer changeover times. And then what if magkaroon tayo ng ah, mas mas maraming parts na iraran. Kung one part number, wala tayong changeover time, wala tayong ibang setup na kailangan. What if that machine can run multiple part numbers and all those multiple part numbers have to be run that week? So, kaya kaya meron tayong 85% overall equipment efficiency lang. Hindi natin siya pine-perfect na 100. Okay, and that effective capacity is lower than the design capacity. Okay, sa industry, ito yun. Again, just to give you a sample, sino nga ba to? Blanca. Just to give you an example of that capacity. Okay, what is the difference between stop capacity and the design capacity? So ito po, based on the engineering team, this is the best that the machine can run. This is the best that with everything is perfect, everything is running well. This is the maximum that the line can achieve. Okay, ito po. Let's just focus on one line. Sorry. Let's just focus on this one. Okay? Ngayon, so ibig sabihin, if we are to run 4 shift, we can produce 26 million per week. Again, may putal kasi nga po that's based on engineering team, based on several computations, based on machine, kakaya ng machines natin. They're running at about 7 days per week and 4 shift operation. But as you can see here, this is what the production will be doing, will be running. This is the capacity na sinabi nila. Or ito yung tinatawag nating effective capacity. Ito yung design capacity, ito yung effective capacity. 25 million per week. Ngayon, syempre, may OEE na consideration dito. Let's say 85% OEE. Yun, yung allowance na binigay nila. So if they can achieve more than 25 million, then better. But more likely, 25 million yung maximum na kaya nilang trabahuhin. Okay, so once again, sa industry, tawag namin sa kanya ay, sorry, hindi makita. Tawag namin sa kanya ay, ayun, staffed capacity. Okay, and then if you are to go back dito sa email, that's the maximum target production na kayang gawin even if yung kanilang installed capacity or the design capacity ay ito. Okay po. So hopefully, naintindihan natin to. So don't save. Don't save. Hindi ko ipoprovide yung mga files na to. Okay. So sa industry, may ilang ways tayo na measurement. Ito po mahalaga to sa CIE din. Utilization and efficiency. Pag sinabing utilization, it's the actual output divided by the design capacity. Okay, and efficiency is a percentage of effective capacity achieved. Actual output divided by effective capacity. Let's have a sample. Sabihin natin last week, nag-produce yung bakery mo ng 148,000 na bread. Then, effective capacity niya, ayon sa normal na run nyo, normal na pagbe-bake nyo is 175. Base sa kakayahan ng ano bang tawag doon? Oven nyo is 1,200 yung kaya niya i-process per hour. And then the bakery operates 7 days per week, 3 to 8 hours. 3 na 8-hour shift. Tatlo na 8 hours na shift. So, alam natin yung design capacity. That's 7 times 3 times 8 hours multiplied by 1,200 rolls per hour. So that results sa 201,600 rolls. Ngayon, ano po yung utilization? Utilization is equal to 148,000. That's the actual output divided by the design capacity. Ibig sabihin, against the total capacity, maximum capacity natin, 73% yung lang tayo utilized. And then efficiency naman po, that's 148, the actual output divided by the effective capacity, 84%. Okay? Question? Question po? Simple lang to guys. Wala. Okay. Next. Okay. Next po, halimbawa, bumaba po ang efficiency ng line natin. Ano ang mangyayari sa ating output? So let's say 75% na lang yung ating efficiency. Ano yung ating ina-expect na output for this week or for next week? So Again, it's just cross multiplication lang naman to, di ba? Actual output is equal to efficiency multiplied by effective capacity. Efficiency multiplied by effective capacity. Ibig sabihin, dahil nga bumaba ang efficiency natin, bababa rin yung expected output natin for maybe next week. Okay? Questions? Wala po.
Wala.
Okay, good. Ngayon, it's always important to manage the demand. For our case now, we have very high demand against our capacity. Yun lagi yung reklamo namin ngayon. And then kung napansin nyo kanina yung mga chart, yung inventory projection niya ay pababa. Ganong katataas yung demand na nare-receive namin at hindi namin kayang i-supportahan lahat ng demand na yun. Ngayon, what can we do to manage the demand that we're receiving? One is to increase our price. Pag nag-increase kami ng price, anong tendency? Ang customer namin hindi bibili ng ganun kadami. Di ba? Tinaasan namin yung lead time namin. Sinabi namin, customer, our lead time now is 40 weeks. So parang okay, hindi, parang mangyayari is either to order huge volume na or hindi humanap sila ng ibang supplier. Okay? Ibang pagkukunan ng supply. Okay po. But definitely, ang long-term solution nga po is to look on ways to increase our capacity. Malinaw po. Next, paano naman po pag ang capacity pag ang demand natin mababa, napakababa kaysa sa capacity, parang hindi na worth it na mag-run? Ano yung gagawin? Stimulate the market. Make some product changes. Stimulate the market, dito pumapatak yung mga marketing plans, mga promotions. Okay? Kasi nga po, yung ating capacity ay hindi natin nagagamit ng maayos. So we can ask our marketing team, can you do some sales discount? Look for some customers who could buy our products and, and things like that. Okay? Now, paano naman po yung magiging plano natin pag may seasonality yung demand? Kagaya nito. Halimbawa, ito po yung seasonality, ito yung demand. So, mababa and then come quarter 4, tataas yung demand natin. And then, ang capacity natin ay ito lang. Ano ang pwede mong gawin? So, one of the things na pwede natin gawin is to produce parts with complementary demand patterns. Halimbawa, kung mababa pa ang demand mo, okay, taasan na natin yung ating production plan. Kasi we're expecting na pagdating ng quarter 4, wala tayong enough capacity, wala tayong enough stocks pag we'll just respond dito. Kumbaga, you're taking advantage of your low points in preparation for the high points. Okay? Okay po. So, ayan. Then, sa service naman po, if yung capacity natin ay limited as compared sa demand na na-receive, you can use appointment, reservation, first come, first serve. How about for if the demand natin ay mas mababa kaysa sa capacity? So, instead of maximizing yung kakayahan ng tao, we can ask part-time staff to partially fulfill muna yung pangangailangan instead na hiring full-time. Okay? Or mga relievers. Okay po. So, yan. Break-even analysis, skip ko to ha. Kasi alam niyo na naman to, na-cover na sa engineering eco. So again, ang concept lang naman ng break-even analysis, it's a point whereas our break-even point is a point whereas the total cost is equal to the total revenue or there has no profit at all. Okay? Then ito yung formula niya. However, this is for a specific one product case. Like this one, you're just looking for a specific material. But in reality, and then yung fixed cost natin parang pang isang material na lang na yun. But in reality, hindi po ganyan. Di ba, halimbawa, pag nagtitinda ka, ayan, ilan yung paninda mo? Marami kang paninda, di ba? So, gagamit tayo ng multi-product case na kagaya nito. We could identify magkano dapat yung ating kitain kada araw para break-even tayo. Wala tayong dugi, wala tayong tubo. Kumbaga, ito yung ating daily target para hindi lang tayo malugi. Okay? So, that's a multi-product case. Ito, skip ko na to. Easy na to eh. Maybe, I'll, hold on po ha. Okay. Okay, so, multi-product case. Ito. Eh, anong ginawa ko? And then, bakit ganito ang itsura niya? Ayan. So, ayun pala. Dito pala yun. Okay po. So, halimbawa ito. May isang restaurant and then they can produce this item. Okay? Sandwich, drinks, baked potato. Ito yung ino-offer nila. And then for a year, ito yung ina-expect nilang maging sales. They can sell 9,000 of sandwiches, 9,000 of drinks, 7,000 of baked potato at these varying prices. And in order to make a sandwich, it cost them $3 and eventually sell it at $5. Okay? Nagets? And then, gusto daw nilang malaman what's the break-even point in dollars? Or in a year, ano kaya yung break-even point? And in a day, ano kaya yung break-even point? Okay, and then ang fixed cost daw ay 3,000 per month. So maybe I'll just have to copy this. And then I'll go sa Excel. And then i-paste ko lang siya dyan. Then item, sandwich, drinks, baked potato. Okay, and then annual sales forecast in units. So we have 9,000, 9,000, and 7,000. And then we have the price of 5, 1.5, 2. And then we have a cost of 3, 0.5, and $1. Okay. Okay po. Hold on po. Hold on, hold on. Ayan. Okay. So, ang goal natin dito ay 1, break even point in dollar for the year. 2, how much sales should be generated daily to break even, assuming that the restaurant is operating 312 days per year. Okay po. And then third one is how many pieces of for each item must be sold per day. Okay po. So yan po yung mga tanong na answeran natin. Okay. So, rely tayo sa formula. Ang formula daw po ng break-even ay ito. Ako po, siguro hindi kayo familiar dito sa multi-product case. Kasi na-cover nyo lang daw sa Eco I break-even point. Okay, so ito yung cost natin. Ilagay ko lang siya sa dollars. Okay, so what we can do is first look for this denominator. Pangalanan ko po siya as contribution. Ito pong contribution na ito ay ito pong portion na 1 minus V multiplied by ito. Okay? So, ayan. Contribution is equal to 1 minus cost, variable cost divided by the price. Okay? So, you have this one already. Okay po. Ngayon, meron na tayong contribution. Yung weight naman po, sabi po, percent, that W is the percent each product is of the total sales. So, hanapin ko po pala yung total sales dito in dollars. So, in terms of dollars, total sales is the annual sales multiplied by the price. And then, mahahanap ko na yung weight natin dito. Ito divided by the sum nito. Okay? Nakuha? Nakuha po yan? Okay? And then, yun, meron na ako. Ang denominator ko daw po, isasum ko daw po itong contribution multiplied by the weight. So, pangalanan ka lang siya as denominator ay equals sa dito, multiply dun. And then, isasum ko lang daw po sila. So, meron na akong denominator. Maliwanag? Okay po. And then, we have fixed cost. Ang nakalagay dito, guys, meron tayong fixed cost is equal to 3,000. Given po to per month. Okay? So, meaning, ang fixed cost natin for the year is equal sa 3,000 multiplied by 12. Okay? And therefore, we can calculate now the break-even point in dollar, which is equal dito divided by the denominator. Question. So, ibig sabihin, yung restaurant should accumulate 76.7K sales per year. Question? Nakuha po? Question po dito? I-remit ko to. Question? Simple lang? Okay, simple lang po. Okay, kung walang question, second tayo. Break-even point in dollar per day. So, if the company operates 312 days per year, magkano yung kailangan nilang benta per day? Nakuha? So, restaurant should set daily sales target of $246. Question? Question? Wala? Okay. So, kung wala po, next natin. How many pieces for each item must be sold per day? So, ilagay natin dito. So, syempre, ayan. So, tingnan ko lang yung formula. Baka ma-miss ko. Ayan. So, ito daw po yung gagamitin natin na formula. So, that is equal dito sa weight. I-multiply natin dito. Then, i-divide natin sa selling price. Okay? So, oops. I-round up ko na lang to. para kasi wala namang may putal na ano na sandwich. Okay, nag-move yung formula natin. Ayan, ibig sabihin 31 sandwiches per day ang kailangan niyang mabenta, 31 drinks per day ang kailangan niya mabenta, and 24 baked potato per day ang kailangan niyang mabenta. Questions?
Sir, ano nga po ulit yun sa ano? Break-even point in dollars?
Ito po. Okay, so that
Opo.
break-even point in dollar is equal, kung susundin lang natin yung formula na to. Okay, so ang formula niya, fixed cost, which is ito. Ginawa ko siyang in a year kasi we're talking of a year dito, divided by the summation of ito, yung denominator. So that denominator po ay ito. That summation. So una, hinanap natin to. 1 minus V divided by P. 1 minus V, variable cost, divided by the price. Nakita? And then, hinanap natin yung weight, which is coming from sales. So, sales po, in terms of dollars, hinanap din muna natin. And then, you have the weight, which is yung sales na to divided by yung total nila. So, dapat ito ay equal sa 1. And then, pinag-multiply lang natin to. So, contribution multiplied by the weight. And then, sinamation natin. Ito po yung summation niya. So that fixed cost divided by dun sa summation, that results sa 76,741. Okay? Okay po.
Okay po, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So any more questions here? Walang questions? Okay, seems walang question. So ito, isi-save ko na lang po, BEP. And then, i-upload ko na lang po i-attach ko na lang po sa pag na-upload ako ng video. Okay, so kung walang question regarding capacity, we'll move sa next two topics. For the next two topics, it will be covered more detailed sa facilities planning. Okay? So, we'll just into the concepts which covers facility or location strategies and layout strategies. Dito po sa location strategies, i-cover natin dito ano-ano yung mga methods, ano-ano yung mga considerations pag magtatayo ka ng, let's say, another warehouse, another plant. Ito po, hindi basta bakante yung lugar, ay doon mo na ilalagay. Ito po ay hindi kagaya ni inasal, yung sa concept ni inasal, na pag hindi na sila nag-undergo ng feasibility study, inabangan na lang nila kung saan magtatayo si Jollibee. Then, kalapit ni Jollibee ang inasal. Okay? Hindi po ganun. Dito sa location strategies, may mag-identify tayo ng mga factors na i-consider natin when we are to evaluate yung mga location options. As much as possible, ika-quantify natin yung decision natin na yun. Okay po. So with that, okay. Punta tayo dito sa taas. Okay, location strategies. Then, okay, delete ko na to. Ito na lang isa. Okay, location strategies section B. Okay. Okay. So, location strategies. Siyempre, aside from common sense, marami po tayong factors na i-consider dito sa location strategies. Di ba ayaw naman natin magtayo ng negosyo sa isang lugar na hindi matao? Di ba? Ayaw mo magtayo ng tindahan sa gitna ng bukid, halimbawa. But then, yun nga, tindahan, that's a service. Pag sinabi kasing service, ang focus mo ay revenue. as much as possible, yung nearness mo sa customer, malapit lang. Okay? Or nako-consider mo talaga yung nearness with your customer. So location is a major revenue factor, which alam naman natin that for service sector. While for manufacturing sector, you're after here on ways to reduce the cost. Okay? Yung cost, kasi kung manufacturing firm ka naman, ang kahit yung mga customers mo malalayo, ano or hindi, kasi yung mga customers mo naman, hindi naman siya directly umo-order sa'yo, possibly. Di ba? Or meron ka naman sigurong warehouse na mas malapit dun sa mga or distribution warehouse na mas malapit sa mga customers mo. Okay? So in here, location is a major cost factor because of the shipping cost, production cost, availability of labor, and then we have location ng mga suppliers natin, yun nga, part na rin ng shipping, and then yung renta dun sa lupa, ayan, and many others. Okay, so this is, itong location decision na to, it could be a one-timer or s- bihira lang to gawin yung decision na to eh. Okay? But then again, kailangan nating ma-understand na pag nagkamali ka sa decision mo ng location, mahirap na siyang i-reverse. Okay? Hanggat maaari, ayaw natin magkamali dito. Okay po. So, ito yung mga considerations natin, transport costs and other costs like taxes, wages, rent, etc. So, ito, kaya nyo na naman basahin to. Ano? Okay. Common sense, kalimitan ng kinoconsider dito. So, factors affecting country decision, almost na-cover na rin na nyo to nung nag-present kayo, I think, CHOP, nung laboratory 2, I think. Whereas, ayun nga, isa sa mga kinoconsider ng mga companies, why they stay at, let's say, China, why they want to build a plant at the Philippines, is or because of government rules or yung mga regulations, mga incentives, labor availability, yung mga cost, communication, energy, the culture, location of market, and exchange rate. They sometimes take advantage of the exchange rate. Okay? So, gets yun na to. Ayan, kung community naman po or regional decisions, almost the same. Nadagdagan lang ng environmental regulation and proximity to customers. Okay, site decision naman po, gaano kalapit sa or gaano ka-accessible sa highway, waterway systems, and the likes. Okay, so ito yung example naman. Look, so in terms of evaluating saang location mo itatayo, yung mga plant mo, yung warehouse mo, ayan, we have several methods. Factor rating, location break-even analysis, center of gravity method, and transportation model. Ito guys, hindi ko magagaranti na pag nasa industry ka, maa-apply ka agad to. But sa CIE, for sure, may 5 to 10 questions or maybe 2 to 5 questions na related sa facilities. Okay? So dito po sa factor rating method, this is the simplest way, most widely used location technique. Whereas you're just identifying yung mga factors, both tangible and intangible or qualitative or quantitative factors. And then, i-scorean nyo lang siya. Then, yung magkakaroon kayo ng sum product, and then, or weighted average. Ito. So, ito yung steps by step. I-discuss nyo na lang sa facilities in detail with regards sa scoring. And then sa factor scale. And then, ito yung ilan sa mga factors na pwede nating i-consider. Proximity to raw materials and supply, proximity to market, site cost, labor costs, and government regulations. Utilities, availability of utilities, quality of life, forex, and the likes. So ito yung example. In here po, let's say you're reviewing 3 alternatives. May 3 locations kayo. Halimbawa, San Jose, Lipa, Batangas City. And then, ito yung ilan sa mga kinonsider yung factors. Yung cost. Pag nagtayo ba ako ng planta sa San Jose, gaano ka mahal? Okay, proximity to transportation, taxes, and the likes. And then, yun nga, nilagyan nyo lang siya ng weight. Itong weight naman, subjective, depende sa inyo. Labor ang prime consideration nila. And then, in-score nila, ito po yung naging score. 10, let's say 10 being the highest. So, makikita dito, in terms of cost, most feasible ang sa San Jose. Ito, syempre, kailangan ng supporting details. Hindi ka basta-basta mag-i-score lang ng 7, 9. Bakit ito mas mababa kaysa sa, bakit yung Batangas City ay mas mababa kaysa sa Lipa City? Yung mga ganyang cases must be supported by data. Okay po. And then, samprada ka lang and then marireveal dito, okay, best location natin is sa San Jose. Okay, so ganyan po yung factor rating method. Questions? Questions? Wala. Okay. Next naman po is locational break-even analysis. In here po, you have to identify yung mga cost factors. Kailangan po malinaw ano yung mga fixed cost, mga variable cost. Example, meron daw pong isang analyst, kayo po ay analyst for AC Delco, and nire-review niyo daw po yung tatlong plants, tatlong possible locations natin, Akron, Bowling Green, and Chicago. For the fixed cost, na-identify niyo siya as ganyan. For the variable cost, so that vary depending on the number of cases na ipoproduce nyo. So 75, 45, and $25 per case. And then yung selling price, pare-pareho namang 120. Malinaw po doon. Ngayon, your goal is to determine the best location if the volume or if your production or if you want to produce 2,000 cases per year. Okay? So, ano ang gagawin natin dito kung ganyan? 2,000 cases per year. So, syempre, pare-pareho naman sila ng selling price. So, nasa usapang cost na lang siya. So, ang total cost natin, di ba, fixed cost plus variable cost. So, for total cost ni Akron, so that's equals sa fixed cost na 30K plus 75 multiplied by 2,000. Then, meron ka na dito. Total cost ni Bowling Green, ganun din. 60K plus 45 times 2,000. And then, meron ka ng result. Then, total cost of for Chicago is equal to 110K plus 25 multiply by 2,000. Then, meron ka na ring result. Whichever po ang pinakamababa, so yun po yung ating pipiliin na location. Given na 2,000 yung ating cases. Malinaw po doon. Malinaw po. Okay. Ngayon, what if hindi naka-state yung 2,000? What if uncertain yung ating volume na yan? Hindi pa binigay sa atin bilang analyst. So, dito nagpi-play ng role yung ating break-even analysis or yung tinatawag na crossover point. So, by the way, ito nga po pala yung result niya. So, ito kahit na hindi mo na i-minus yung hindi mo na i-calculate yung profit kahit na yung cost na lang, 'di ba? Pare-pareho naman yung total revenue nila. But it appears here that B ang less yung cost. Okay, which is yung Bowling Green nga po. Ngayon, yan nga po, range of output ay uncertain. So, what you can do is to do a crossover chart. Similar to this. Using itong formula natin for the total cost and substituting yung values ng x as x is equal to 0 and any values of x. Again, you can make use of 2 points para makapag-create ka ng line, di ka? Okay? Di ka? 2 lines. 2 points will determine a line. Okay? So, ayan, na-review natin. If x is equal to 0, 30,000, 60,000, 110,000. And from here, pwede na nating easily ma-identify ano yung best decision for this range of volume. For example, ito. Di ba ang goal natin dito, kung natatandaan nyo yung sa, gusto kasi natin malawak yung area. Kung natatandaan nyo yung sa linear programming natin. Gusto natin malawak yung area but then na-restrict tayo, may humarang. Okay? Ngayon po, in here, ayan po, ma-identify natin based dun sa region, based dun sa range, kung ano po yung best alternative. Like for this one, yung kulay pula, yun po yung line ni Akron. So kung mapapansin nyo dito, ang unang na-touch, unang nagkaroon ng restriction dito ay itong line na to. Which is mula 0.0 na yun, ito yung range of volume, hanggang 1,000, the best decision po, ang may pinakamababang cost po ay si Akron. Malinaw. Kasi ito yung point niya hanggang dito. Okay po. Next, so may intersection dun, and then may intersection din dun. So those are the area bounded by color yellow, which is the bowling green. So kung lalagyan lang natin siya ng kulay, so ito pong area na to, yung kulay yellow, yan po yung best range for bowling green. Ibig sabihin, best siya kung ang volume natin na ipoproduce ay mula 1,000 hanggang 2,500. Nagets po? Nagets?
Opo.
And then dito naman po, if more than 2,500 na ang usapan, the best naman po itong kulay blue. Ayun po siya, oh, yung nag-touch na yun. Sorry. Dapat pala kulay ano na lang yun. Ayan siya, oh, yung blue na yun, di ba? So the best naman siya na decision if your volume is 2,500. Okay? Ngayon, if you go back dito sa example natin, pag 2,000, ano nga yung best decision using this? Best decision pag 2,000? Ayun, dito siya. So siya ay bowling green. Okay, malinaw po. Pag siya ay 3,000, best decision sa Chicago. Pag 500 lang yung volume natin, sa Akron. Malinaw? Questions?
Opo.
Ngayon, pag 2,500, anong best decision? It could either be Bowling Green or
Bowling or
Chicago
Chicago.
kasi intersection yan. Okay? Pwede rin naman yung i-recompute gamit uli ito. Yung total cost natin. Okay. Next. Walang questions sa break-even? Sa crossover chart? Okay. Next natin is center of gravity. In here naman po, kailangan ma-specify natin yung geospatial location niya, yung longitude, latitude, or yung coordinates ng mga customers na i-fulfill natin. At the same time, yung ating location na magiging decision or decided location natin. So in here po, we're trying to look for the location of a single facility that would serve several destinations or several customers. Okay? So ito yung mga requirement. Location of the existing destination or yung mga markets natin, mga retailers, yung volume to be shipped, and then yung shipping distance or yung cost. And then ito yung steps natin. So simply, and then ito po yung formula na hahanap na whereas center of gravity or ito yung concept ng centroid. Okay? Na ito yung coordinates ng ating magiging allocation decision. Okay? So, let's say you have 4 cities. Ito po na may demand. Ito yung demand nila. And then ito yung mga coordinates nila. Okay? Ngayon, ang goal natin is hanapin daw po yung warehouse, saan daw po natin itatayo yung warehouse that would minimize the total distance to supply these cities. So, pwedeng dito sa point na to, pwedeng dito sa point na to, pwedeng sa point na to, pwedeng sa point na to. So, our overall goal is to hanapin yung coordinates na yun. Okay, that would fulfill yung volume nila. So, unang tingin, parang mapapansin nyo, dahil nga po sa mataas yung volume ni Chicago at saka ni Atlanta, dapat malapit lang sa kanila. Okay? But then, makakaapekto naman po yun dun sa distance mula dun sa planta papunta kay New York. Kasi nga po, kung gusto mo yung malapit, halimbawa dito yung gusto mong planta, di ba? So, ang layo naman niya papunta kay New York. So, talo ka naman dyan sa transportation cost. So again, para siyang yung centroid, hahanapin mo yung center of gravity. Okay? So to do that, ito lang naman po yung formula niya. Hahanapin mo yung x and y coordinate. So simply 200, yung numerator muna natin, 200 multiplied by 30. Sorry, I think better kung i-remove natin to. Okay. Okay. Ang tagal bumaba. Okay. So simple lang po yung formula niya. Sum product lang, tapos divided by the volume. So 200 multiplied by 30 plus 100 multiplied by 90, then plus 100 multiplied by 130, plus 200 multiplied by 60. Nakuha. And then, i-divide lang po natin yun sa total volume na ito. Then, mahanap mo yung first point, which is 66.67. Okay? Ganun din po ang y. 200 multiplied by 120. 100 multiplied by 110. 100 multiplied by 130. Then 200 multiplied by 40. Then divided by yung total volume. Makukuha mo yung point na yun. Ang ibig sabihin, itong point na yan, yan yung ating magiging location ng bagong warehouse. Questions? Yan po siya. Questions? Questions? Wala? Okay. And then, of course, we can make use of transportation model. Pwede rin naman po yung minimization of total production and shipping cost. Ayan, hindi ko na ito i-cover. Okay, questions? Hindi ko na ito sasagutan. Questions po regarding location strategies? Wala? Walang questions? Okay, mukhang wala po. Last two. Next natin po is layout strategy. Ito, simpleng-simple lang po ang gagawin natin dito. Sa layout strategies po natin na to, parang, okay, alam mo na nga kung nasaan yung facility nyo, nasaan yung warehouse nyo, asan yung office nyo through location strategy. Ngayon po dito, hanapin natin, didesign na natin, ano yung layout? Anong layout ng office? Anong itsura niya? And ito naman, ang common na ginagawa dito kapag pag nasa industry, nire-review lang namin, motion. Gaano ba kalayo yung magiging movement ng tao from this location to another location, or nung material natin, gaano kalayo yung magiging movements nila, and so yun po yung mga kino-consider dito sa layout strategies, but most of them are common sense. Okay? Siyempre, ayaw mo naman ng mapapalayo yung isang department dun sa another department given na kailangan magkadikit sila. Di ba? Okay. So, dito po, ayan, skip natin to. The objective of layout location is to develop a cost-effective layout that will meet a firm's competitive needs. Too broad. Pero, yun nga, gusto natin, malesen yung cost, malesen yung waste, mas maging efficient yung movement natin. Okay? Yun po yung layout decisions. Then, there are several layout decisions: higher utilization of space, better flow of information, better moral ng employee, safer work conditions, better interaction with our customers, and better flexibility. Several types of layout. Ito po, office layout, gets na natin to. Okay, offices. Saang department, ayan, di ba may office ka, then anong itsura nun? Sino dapat yung department na malapit sa other departments? Saan malapit dapat yung conference room and the likes? Nasaan dapat yung Xerox or yung photocopying machine? Asan yung printer? Ayan. So yung mga ganong klaseng decisions ang ginagawa dito sa office layout. Nasaan yung basurahan? Asan yung aircon and the likes? Anong position ng mga upuan? Dito sa retail layout, ito yung kagaya ng sa SM, whereas gusto nating mas ma-utilize yung space and then mas gusto natin makuha yung customer experience na kahit na hindi kailangan ni customer ay mapapabili siya kasi madadaanan niya. Okay, ang gusto natin dito sa retail ay ma-maximize nga yung cost or yung revenue opportunity. Okay? Warehouse layout naman, ang goal natin dito is ma-maximize yung space. Hindi ibig sabihin na punong-puno yung warehouse natin. Hindi po ganun. Ma-maximize yung space 3D. Not only in the length, not only in the width, but also in the height. Kaya kung mapapansin niyo yung warehouse natin, may mga pataas, ilang levels ng racks yung warehouse. Fixed position layout naman po, ang konsepto nito ay pag may malaki kang construction na gagawin, halimbawa, gagawa ka ng eroplano, hindi naman siya pwedeng yung habang ginagawa yung eroplano, same siya ng layout sa pagpaproduce ng sasakyan na yung sasakyan nagmo-move from one cell to another cell to another cell. Dito po sa fixed position layout, yung product natin, andun lang siya. Hindi siya umiibo. Instead, yung mga machine, yung mga tao, yun yung lumalapit dun sa product na yun. Okay? Yun nga, a classic example ay construction of a building, construction of a house, uh, construction or building of ship, okay, barko, and aeroplano, and many others. Process-oriented layout naman po, ito yung mga konsepto whereas yung mga machines na pare-pareho ng function ay sama-sama. For example, ito, lahat ng yan, buong area na to, welding machine. Then, buong area na to, molding process. Buong area na to ay plating. Yan po yung konsepto ng process-oriented. Okay? And then, halimbawa, process-oriented nga siya, so there could be high variety of products. So, posible na dadaan dito, yung isang product, hindi dadaan sa molding. Pagka plating ay diretso ng assembly and the likes. Okay, and then yung iba, ganyan yung flow. Molding muna, ayan. Yan po yung konsepto ng process-oriented layout. In short, pagsasama-samahin natin yung like machines, like functions na, or like na processes. Work cell layout, ginagamit naman po to for assembly line balancing. Pag sinabi nating work cell, I think best ay pakita sa picture eh. Work cell. Ayan. Asan ka? Yung magandang itsura ng work cell. Ito. Ito. Work cell. Ito, mas maganda. Work cell. Okay, kumbaga, parang isang grupo na siya. Okay, nakagrupo na siya. Ito, another example of work cell. Sama-sama. Okay? And then, ano ba ba? Ito, work cell. Yun nga. Nakita niyo naman yung kaninang picture. Okay? So, ito kalimitan for assembly line para mapabilis yung operations. Gugrupo na lang natin yung mga yung process na pwedeng igrupo. Okay? Then product-oriented layout naman po ay halimbawa ito. Na, parang line siya. Ito yung one product line, another product line. So for this product line, you have a welding machine, you have another sets of machines. Dito naman po, you have a welding machine, you have different kinds of other machines, other processes. So different po siya sa process-oriented layout whereas ginugrupo natin yung magkakaparehong process. Dito po, ginugrupo natin yung mga processes na ginagamit to produce that certain, let's say, product line for that certain product line or that certain product. Pinagsasama-sama natin sila. Okay po, kaya po siya product-oriented. Okay, questions? Questions? So, yun nga po. Considered natin dapat yung material handling, yung capacity, space requirements, better flow of information, and yun nga, yung movements. And then ito yung mga examples. So, skip na natin to. Skip ko na 'to ha, yung iba. Na-cover ko na naman 'to. Ano pa ba? Mhm. Again, conceptual lang naman 'to. Ayun. Sa facilities po, matututo po kayo ng several programs po na makakatulong to easily construct a layout plan. Like for example, sa craft, ayan, computer relative allocation facilities technique, it can give you several iterations and then um, ma-identify natin yung total cost, yung reductions and the likes, yung impact ng bawat isang layout. So ang input nyo lang dito, gaano kalaki yung warehouse, yung department na yun. Ayan, and then yung proximity to other departments. Yun lang po yung prime considerations dito. Yun, there are several softwares nga po na makakatulong. Okay, so ito ilan sa mga improvement for the work cells. This is your current layout. Then pwede natin gawing ganito, cross-train yung employees which can assist each other. Okay po, rather than dito isolated ka, pwedeng magkaroon ng dito. So again, space, yeah, that's a factor, but definitely yung movement nila, yung motions. Then instead of running in a straight line, you can improve it through a U-shaped line so that reduce employee movement then, better communication, and better maximize natin yung space. Okay? Ito, skip ko na to ha. Okay. Assembly line balancing, na-cover niyo na naman to sa work study. Okay, so sample of assembly line, sorry. Example of assembly line ay yung sa McDonald's. Ganito yung itsura niya. Ay, pinapakita lang yung layout. Okay? And then ito, for assembly line balancing, ganito rin po. Siguro alam niyo na to, ano? We have the task time, the task must follow, or yung precedence natin. And then you can construct this one. Hindi po to per CPM, hindi to part ng project management, magkamukha lang po. And then eventually, makakapag-identify ka ng cycle time, maximum number of workstations. Nagets na yan? Ano? And then if may mga heuristics tayong ginagamit dito, but most common is yung most following task. And then, yun, ma-identify mo na kung alin yung magkakagrupo, gagawin nating stations para makapag-construct tayo ng work cells. Then, i-compute natin yung efficiency. Okay. Questions? Questions po?
Wala pa po, sir.
Wala po. Okay. Next, for the 15th laboratory po, gusto lang nating magamit yung mga tools na ito. Okay? You may pick not all of them, pero I think maximum of 3 of them, 3 of these outputs. Pwede rin namang lahat gawin. Walang problema. So what you are to do is to select any simple process that will show an assembly line, the concept of assembly line. Then illustrate or draw that process and check if there are improvements na pwede nyong isuggest. Okay? You may construct a current and proposed layout, yung swim lane diagram. Ayan, andyan yung tao, saan nangyari, yung time elements, and then value stream mapping. Ayan, and then spaghetti diagram, this is very easy. Dapat meron kayo na nito. Kasi pag may layout na kayo, you can easily construct yung movement, di ba? Or you can easily depict yung mga movements ng tao, yung materials. And then yung flow chart. So any flow chart that you think is applicable. So dalawang sets yan. One is yung proposed, or one is yung current state and ano yung proposals. Okay po. This can be presented in Excel in any ways na gusto nyo. Question?
Sir, ano pong mga sample ng assembly line na pwede?
Okay, that would require multiple tao ang kailangan natin. Halimbawa, magluluto ng kikiam. Okay? Yun, that could be an example. Or magluluto ng fishball. Okay? So, identify niyo na rin. Extend lang natin, may customer na dumating. Halimbawa ng tindahan. Ano, ah, but a classic example, yun nga, sa McDonald's, sa Jollibee. Yun yung classic eh. Ano itsura ng assembly line sa KFC, sa McDo. Yun, pwede yun. Kung alin yung pwede. And then, syempre, kung ano yung current state, which is yun nga, may COVID na considerations na yan, yun yung ilalagay nyo as a current state. Okay? Which is, I think maganda nga yun eh. Yung isa sa inyo, KFC, yung isa Jollibee, yung isa Tokyo-Tokyo halimbawa. Ayun, I think that's the best na pwede nating and madali. Ano, yung na ma-picture out yung assembly line na yun. And then makagawa ng mga to. Okay po? Okay, ma'am? Okay po. Okay. So, yun yung best. Yun yung pinakamadali na. But, I think, yun nga, yung simple, given yung case natin ngayon, kung ano lang yung kaya. Halimbawa, UB, yung sa registration, register natin. That could be an example din. Okay, whichever is accessible sa inyo. And pwedeng gamitan ng ito. Not necessarily really an assembly line, but pwedeng paggamitan ng mga to. Okay? Questions po? Any more questions?
Sir, minimum of 3 dyan.
Yeah, minimum of 3. Again, that's 2 sets sa current and proposal. Current and future state. Okay? Questions?
Sir, dun po sa current at proposal, yung current po, dapat po ba existing na yung ano?
Yeah.
Or gagawa din po kami ng panibago?
Current is existing. Yes. Halimbawa, ano ang status, paano ngayon yung ordering system ng, let's say, Jollibee Levittown. So, i-layout na lang yun. Again, yun lang front desk yung ating alam doon, di ba? Hindi pwedeng sa sa loob ng Jollibee. So, ito-drawing na lang yun. Or sige, McDonald's na lang para madali. So, ito yung sa McDonald's, ito yung cashier, ayan yung cashier. And then, dito, ayan, ito yung waiting area. Ayan. And then, yun, if you think na siya ay optimal na, pero syempre, try to think pa kung merong proposals pa. So, dito may dadating na tao. Ayan. So, ayan, after nito, saan siya pupunta? Yung tao dito, saan pupunta? And the likes. Okay? Okay po. With
Okay
regard,
po, sir.
with regard sa swim lane, ito yung customer. Magpe-place ng order. Ito si cashier. Then, place ng order, gaano katagal. Di ba? Pwede yung ma-construct na ganyan. And then, yung another persons involved, si customer, ipipick up, or sorry, ito si customer, ipipick up na yung, ano niya, yung orders. Yan. Pwede yun. Pero, yun nga, pag kasi sa mga restaurant ngayon, parang nakita natin is optimal. Halimbawa, sa McDo, parang optimal na. Wala na tayong maisip na proposals. So maybe yung similar industry dun na pwede natin ngang i-improve. Ano? Halimbawa, ordinary yung tindahan nga. Okay? Questions po? With regards sa deadline, I think the 2 weeks tayo ng 2 weeks. So that's on this week, May 3rd. Okay po. Questions?
I-report din po yan.
Yes po, i-report. Questions?
Kasabay po nung nakaraan.
Yes. Itong week na to ay inyong week. Sorry. Yung nakaraan, I think that's on this next week kung hindi ako nagkamali. Di ba ito yung target natin? But let's see. Kung may output, then ipe-present. Kung wala pa, di we can adjust. Definitely. Okay? This is for the laboratory. No? Again, we have 2 subjects ditong kino-cover. Kaya medyo matrabaho. Questions? Wala? Walang questions? Wala na? Any more questions, guys? Before we move on to the next topic. May isa pa. Questions?